And I'll start again. Welcome, everyone. I'm Stuart Reed. I'm Executive Director of Community Foundation Grey Bruce. And we're very pleased to be hosting this information session about the Investment Readiness Program. Thank you for joining us today. We've got some great information to share, and there's going to be some time for interaction and question and answer. So thank you for being here. Community Foundation Grey Bruce is a regional partner on the delivery of the IRP, and our partner is the WindsorEssex Community Foundation. And we're going to hear from Acela this afternoon as well from WindsorEssex. And today I'm speaking to you from our office in downtown Owen Sound. And I want to acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires, known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as well as the Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat Wyandot people on whose traditional territories we may gather. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. And we at Community Foundation Grey Bruce are mindful of broken covenants and the need to strive for justice in all our relations. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all of its peoples. And today on the call, I'm supported by my colleagues, Christine McGregor, our Community Outreach Officer from CFGB, and Jennifer Isberleg, our Grants Coordinator, and they're going to help us to administer the question and answer session a little later on in the presentation. And I'm really pleased to welcome Acela Mrcelovic, the Community Investments Coordinator from WindsorEssex Community Foundation, to say a few words. Acela?
Thank you so much, Stuart, for the introduction. As Stuart mentioned, hi everyone. My name is Acela Mrcelovic, and I'm the Community Investment Coordinator at the WindsorEssex Community Foundation. Today, I'm speaking to you all from my home in WindsorEssex County. The WindsorEssex Community Foundation sits on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, which includes the Ojibwa, Odawa, and the Potawatomi. We respect the long-standing relationships with First Nations people in this place in the 100-mile Windsor-Essex Peninsula and the Straits, Detroit. On behalf of the WindsorEssex Community Foundation, we are honored and so excited to be a regional partner on the delivery of the Investment Readiness Program and to co-lead this initiative with the Community Foundation Grey Bruce.
Thank you, Acela. So today we're going to be talking about the Investment Readiness Program, and this is funded by the Government of Canada, supporting social purpose organizations as they contribute to solving pressing social, cultural, and environmental challenges across Canada. The goal of the program is to help social purpose organizations build their capacity to participate in Canada's growing social finance market and to prepare themselves to be able to take on investments. The IRP, as we call it, is currently open for an additional round of applications, and there is a renewed $50 million investment from the Government of Canada, which Community Foundations of Canada is helping to distribute. The IRP is supporting social purpose organizations as they recover from the pandemic and build more resilient communities for the future. To best serve the diversity of communities, a variety of organizations are working within the Investment Readiness Program ecosystem. Community Foundations of Canada, which both of our organizations belong to, is proud to serve as one of the IRP's national funding intermediaries. And CFC is collaborating with regional partners across the country to award IRP funding. CFC is also working alongside the Foundation for Black Communities and Black-led and Black-serving social purpose organizations that can apply to both CFC and the Foundation for Black Communities through the online application portal. Acela is now going to talk a little bit about the timing and key dates for this next round of the IRP.
Thank you so much, Stuart. So your social purpose organization can apply for amounts ranging from $10,000 to $75,000. Your organization will need to determine which of the two funding streams you will submit your application to. Your options are the Explore stream, between $10,000 and $25,000, or the Stabilize and Build stream, which is between $30,000 to $75,000. We're going to learn more about the streams today. There's only one application intake period for the Investment Readiness Program. You might want to jot these important dates down. So if you have a pen and paper handy, please do so. And I'm going to read through the dates now. So September 29th to November 22nd, the application portal is open to receive applications. All applicants must submit applications through this portal. February 13th, 2023, funding recipients will be notified. February 14th, 2023, and ongoing funding agreements will be sent. They will need to be signed and a payment will be issued. March 30th, 2023, regional partners will provide Community Foundations of Canada with interim reports regarding funds received and how they have been spent. April to November of 2023, there will be an IRP learning cohort, which runs for our selected organizations. Elly will be talking about this opportunity today. December 15th, 2023, deadline for funded projects to be complete. January 31st, 2024, funding recipients will have to submit a final report to Community Foundations of Canada. Today, we are going to hear from Elly's presentation, then we're going to welcome your questions. If a question occurs to you during the presentation, please put it in the chat box. Christine will be retaining all questions and reading them out to us after Elly's presentation. If you don't have an answer for you today, we will be sure to address the response at our next session together on November 16th. So if you have not done so, please register. Answers to your questions will be a great resource for other applicants when the recording is shared. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisela. So today we're going to benefit from the first of two presentations by Elly Green. Today's session on the IRP will provide introduction to social enterprise and the sustainable development goals, as well as providing key terms and concepts for potential applicants. We're also going to have an overview of the IRP program, including a discussion of eligibility and guidelines for your application. Our next session, session number 2 on November 16th, and again, I urge you to register, will be at the same time. And we're going to discuss how to write a great application. And we're going to draw upon successful past projects from previous IRP rounds. And we're going to have a more fulsome opportunity for question and answer. So I hope you'll join us then as well. And as Christine mentioned, we're recording today's session as well as the 16th, and they're both going to be available for review through a link on both our foundation's websites. So those will be a great resource for people that are considering applying. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Elly Green to you today. Elly has over 20 years of project-based work experience supporting not-for-profits and emerging organizations pursuing community development, social enterprise, and all kinds of impact-driven work. For the past 2 years, Elly's been working as the lead of the Community Benefit Purchasing Project, which is a partnership between Ashoka Canada and Georgian College. Elly has facilitated extensive regional, provincial, and national partnerships. She's led stakeholder groups from awareness through to investment in various initiatives and sectors. Prior to her current projects, Elly supported the vision, growth, and management of the Social Enterprise Network of Central Ontario, or CENCO as we call it, housed at Georgian College's Centre for Change-Making and Social Innovation. And through her leadership at CENCO, she has secured core program funding to ensure regional support for many social purpose organizations in Central Ontario. And while at CENCO, Elly was a key partner when Community Foundation Grey Bruce administered the first round of the IRP back in 2019. And we were serving the region then as Central Ontario, and we worked with Georgian College as a partner. So we have the benefit of great experience and resources today. So we're so happy that Elly's going to be sharing her insights. So welcome to Elly.
Thanks so much, Stuart. Really appreciate the introduction, and so happy to be here today to dive into this session. So why don't we? Bless you. All right. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. As Stuart mentioned, we have 3 sections to the session today. We're going to talk about social enterprise, the SDGs, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and then we're going to dive into the program. So our first section, what is social enterprise? I love to start out with this slide. We have community needs in all of our communities, and not-for-profits, charities, all sorts of organizations identify those, and then they seek to create solutions. We also have businesses who identify customer wants, create amazing products and services to support the customers. So when we consider social enterprise must have both. It must respond to the community needs as well as creating a product or service for customers. Another excellent visual that builds off this last diagram is here. And so you can see social enterprise once again is listed, and social enterprise, doing good and making money. You can see in the blue shaded circle, the larger circle, that it also includes not-for-profits and charities. So often, not-for-profits and charities might have a program or a wing that is a social enterprise. However, a not-for-profit or a charity in itself is not necessarily a social enterprise. And then you can see that this circle extends over to the for-profit side. For-profit organizations are generally focused on making money. For-profit organizations can also engage in corporate social responsibility and give back. It's important to note that corporate social responsibility is not the same as social enterprise. When we talk about social enterprise, it's important to note that there's social enterprise organizations, social purpose organizations, we often call them. There's also social enterprise businesses that often fall in the for-profit side. So there's a lot of key terms here, and we'll get into a bunch of them today. On the other side, there's the social entrepreneur. So the social entrepreneur is often an individual, and the social entrepreneur is an individual within an organization, potentially creating social change, a social enterprise, or social innovation. So when we look at these terms, there's a few more we can add in here. So the two sections that are grayed out in the middle of this slide, earned revenue, business practices, responding to the market. So this side here with the green dollar sign is all about the business activity. And then the teal flowering growth sign is the social, cultural, environmental mission or vision that's a part of a social enterprise. And once again, this is the side that responds to the community need. So both of these need to be imbalanced within your social enterprise. And you can see the lines here. So when we have community need, it's important to note that it's tied to a beneficiary. So the beneficiary can be a people, a person, a group, it can be the environment, it can be all sorts of entities. And so as we are creating change, social, cultural, or environmental, in response to the community need, whomever is benefiting is our beneficiary. And then through realizing the impact that's being created, we are measuring the impact. Okay, so it's important to note that in social enterprise, we have business activities, we're making change, we have beneficiaries of that change, and we're able to measure the impact we're creating. This slide here is taken directly from the CFC, so the Community Foundation of Canada glossary for this program. So you can see here on the slide, social enterprise. A social enterprise is an organization or program that is driven by a public benefit mission and sells goods or services to earn a revenue, while also helping achieve its positive social, cultural, or environmental objective. Social enterprise business. Here, the social enterprise is in the form of a for-profit business, with the difference that the profits are being used to sustain the mission of helping to achieve positive social, cultural, or environmental objectives. To be classified as a social enterprise for the IRP, a majority of the business's profits must go back into their social, cultural, or environmental mission. This spectrum is also really helpful to understand social enterprise. So you can see on the one side, we have the traditional charity. And the traditional charity is responding to, once again, those needs in the community. There's descriptions along the bottom of this slide that help to understand where social enterprise fits, and also to help us understand that social enterprise can stretch across the spectrum. It's not just one specific thing. So you can see as we enter into the green here, the social enterprise is potentially existing within a traditional charity or not-for-profit, yet bringing in revenue and becoming self-sustaining. And then we can see on the other side of the slide, as social enterprise enters and potentially moves into the traditional business model, they maybe are a mission-driven for-profit and potentially B Corp certified. And once again, we can see that corporate social responsibility falls outside of the social enterprise model. It's really helpful to take a look at examples of social enterprises as we explore what a social enterprise is. So this slide here was created actually with the purpose of doing just that. And we're actually going to look at one of the organizations directly listed under social enterprise, which is Operation Grow, in a minute. So once again, there's existing organizations here on this slide, from mission-driven, those with a social enterprise within their organization. We have social enterprises creating purpose. We then have allied entities, co-ops potentially. We have organizations moving into philanthropy, and then we have profit-driven organizations. I encourage you to research and explore any of the organizations on this slide further. We have a video which is going to be very helpful in understanding some specific examples, or I guess they're a little more general, but examples of social enterprise. So I'm going to play this video now, and we'll also share the link to the video in the chat, but hopefully the stream works just great for you.
Social entrepreneurship strengthens communities, creates jobs, and increases environmental and financial sustainability. Social entrepreneurs use a specific business model called social enterprise to directly address a social, cultural, or environmental issue. Let's show you a few examples. A bakery social enterprise might provide training and jobs to people who face persistent barriers to employment. They help them build skills they can use to find full-time work. A community orchestra could help amateur musicians connect with each other and perform for local paying audiences. Tickets are so affordable that anyone can watch their concerts. The groups get to learn about and share the music of different cultures within the community. An environmental enterprise might provide subsidies for energy retrofits to homeowners to make their homes more efficient and to help the environment. In each example, the social enterprise is directly addressing one or more important community issues by making and selling a product or service to paying customers. All social entrepreneurs and social enterprises seek to achieve more than a bottom line financial result. They exist primarily to meet their mission. It is not uncommon for these types of businesses to strive for value on double or even a triple bottom line approach, which takes into consideration both people and the planet. So who are these social entrepreneurs? Well, they can be anyone. Social entrepreneurs are started by people who care enough about something to take the necessary action to make an impact. Even you can be the next social entrepreneur. Akram started a local urban garden. The garden exists to provide healthy food to people in urban areas that may not have access to these items otherwise. They also teach skills around urban farming and healthy eating. Their participants sell what they have grown at their weekly market stand, and this helps to pay for the garden. June worked in a nonprofit providing help for persons with disabilities to find jobs. However, there weren't many jobs available for these people, even with the provided coaching and training. So June decided to start a cafe supported by her organization to employ the clients. They get supportive and understanding employment, and the organization can eventually make money to provide more social programming. John noticed youth in his area were underemployed. He also noticed the elderly were moving out because they could not maintain simple household chores like vacuuming, lawn mowing, and shoveling. Additionally, the two groups were not interacting with one another. He decided to start a social enterprise employing youth where they could rake leaves, mow lawns, and shovel snow for the elderly, who would pay them for their services. The youth get valuable hands-on experiences, and the elderly can live in their homes longer because these services are being offered. and both get to learn about each other and break down barriers that help create the generational gap. So you can see all types of people do it. People on their own and working in organizations too. If the primary purpose is to create social, cultural, and/or environmental value, then it is a social enterprise. When more people engage in this work, we can strengthen our communities and change the world for the better, one caring social entrepreneur at a time.
So we have one more video that's a short 1-minute clip, and I'll play it next, of a existing social enterprise in Midland.
How do you contemplate going to work when your whole life has been violence and shame? When we envisioned Operation Grow, the women we serve were at the center of that vision, and we wanted a downtown location where the women who have been most impacted by violence have a place to come. Everything about this program is about self-determination. You can come in, you can go to use the kitchen, you can learn how to farm, you can take meditation classes, you can take trauma-informed yoga.
So we have an indoor vertical farm. We're able to grow produce hydroponically, and it's really neat because they're actually grown in a matrix media that's made out of recycled water bottles. We knew that we had to have a sustainable business model in order to let the social programs thrive. And if we want to keep the social programs growing and we want to make a big impact in the lives of women, we have to have a business that works.
We believe Operation Grow will give people an opportunity to end poverty, and that's pretty profound.
Great. So with that, each of the sections today, I'm going to pass it over to the regional partners if there's any additional comments or reflections they'd like to add. And we have a few on the next slide as well. So Stuart and Estella, is there anything else you'd like to add regarding the social enterprise section?
I think you've really illustrated well, Elly, the spectrum of types of organizations and the differences between social enterprise and socially responsible corporations and the charitable sector as well. So I think that you know, one of our big challenges with the IRP is clarity around the model and really making connections to people who this funding is most appropriate for. So I thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo as to what Stuart said. And I do want to say that the video that you provided was very clear. And so thank you for sharing that with us.
Awesome. Yeah, and on this slide, one key piece is it's not fundraising activity. And I think that's important to note. So with that, we'll move on to the next section. Thanks. So an introduction to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Once again, we have a short clip to provide you with some really key information on what the Sustainable Development Goals are and where they came from.
In the year 2000, leaders from 189 countries agreed on a vision for the new millennium. They wanted to end extreme poverty in all of its forms. So they made a list of 8 goals called the Millennium Development Goals, and they wanted to achieve these goals in 15 years. One of the leading organizations working to fulfill these goals has been the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP. We're present in more than 170 countries and territories. We championed the goals so that people everywhere would know what they were and how people could do their part. We funded projects that helped fulfill the goals. We helped countries accelerate NDG progress by breaking down the silos and working across sectors. We acted as scorekeeper, helping countries to track progress. As a result, the number of people that live on less than $1.25 per day has dropped by more than half. The number of primary school-age kids who don't go to school, down by almost half. The number of people getting life-saving treatment for HIV increased by over 15 times. Child mortality, down by almost half. As much progress as we have made together, there's still a lot more to do. Over 800 million people are still living on less than $1.25 a day. 1 in 9 people on our planet goes to sleep hungry each night. Deforestation remains alarmingly high in many countries. Oceans are becoming more acidic, threatening food security and marine ecosystems. And about 1 of every 6 adults in the world is illiterate. 2/3 of them are women. We think those are tough numbers, and so do leaders from the countries where we work. So in September 2015, they agreed on a new set of goals to help finish the work we all started in 2000. The new goals are called the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. We have made significant progress in the last 15 years, and we think there's plenty of room for hope, for action in the next 15 years. Today, the world is more connected by technology. We know more about how to balance the 3 pillars of sustainable development: social progress, economic growth, and environmental protection. However, our climate is changing. Our planet is transforming, and there are more people on Earth than ever before. We at UNDP believe everyone can have enough of what they need, living within our planetary boundaries, and we are working around the world to make this happen. Our goals to reach by 2030 are to eradicate extreme poverty, protect our environment, and much more. UNDP has 50 years of experience working with countries to make this a more prosperous, healthy, inclusive, and sustainable world.
Great. So another video to provide context and key information on the SDGs. So as you heard in the video, the SDGs are a continuation from the Millennial Development Goals. And it's important to note that there are 17 goals, and they are all here listed on this slide. So the key parts of the SDGs is that essentially everything goes together. So all of these goals are interconnected, yet organizations can focus in on one goal. So many organizations around the world have made a commitment to commit their work, their efforts to these goals. So I encourage you all to check out the website, which we'll share in the chat, so that you can get a better sense of the SDGs and which SDGs align with your work. When you dive into the website, you'll notice for every goal, there's more information. You'll have an overview page as well as targets and indicators, and then progress and info shared for each goal. The most important thing to focus on at this point in context to the IRP application is the main goal and how it's defined. So you can see here, goal number 1, no poverty, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. So we're looking for organizations to understand the 17 goals, their basic general definition. You don't need to go into the targets and indicators at this time. If you're interested in doing that, you absolutely can. But most important is to look at the goals and get a sense of what goal or potentially a couple goals your work is focused on. So there's a few other resources that I'd encourage you to check out. So one of them is the IRP it's the second round report, essentially, created by CFC. So here you can get a sense of the SPOs that participated in that program and the impact that they're having. So this is a really amazing resource. Once again, we're going to share it in the chat. And another resource that could be really interesting to you, the Community Foundations of Canada launched the SDG Guidebook and Toolkit. They actually created this for the community foundations. It's a package that provides all sorts of details on the UN SDGs. It's in the context for community foundations. However, there's a lot of examples, key information that might be interested for you if you're looking to dive in deeper. So this is another resource that we'll share in the chat for anybody interested in diving more into the SDGs from the perspective of the Community Foundations of Canada. So with that, a quick overview on the SDGs. Once again, I'll just see if Stuart and Estella, if there's anything else you'd like to add before I move on to the next section.
Thanks, Elly. I'd also draw people's attention to the vital signs work that our Community Foundation Network engages in. Just this past year's Community Foundation Grey Bruce released its vital focus on housing, and we linked a lot of our data that we were sharing to the SDGs. And the Sustainable Development Goals are an amazing tool for us to link what's happening locally with a global agenda. And so that kind of rubric is going to be something that we speak more and more about in the years leading up to 2030. But if you're looking to kind of close the loop and discuss your social enterprises activities on a local sphere, you may want to engage with some of the vital signs language that's going on. Aisel is nodding too, and a lot of the community foundations across the Southwestern Ontario region use vital signs to do a check-in on community well-being, and you can find pertinent data and objectives that might be in line with the social purpose that your organization is aligning with.
Awesome, thanks, Stuart. Estella, is there anything to add?
No, I think that what Stuart mentioned, how Grey Bruce uses the vital signs with the SDGs, so does the Windsor-Essex Community Foundation, and we have kind of incorporated that into our grant making as well. And I believe Community Foundations Grey Bruce does that as well. So
amazing, perfect. Thanks to you both. So the key question for organizations to consider: how does your work align with or support the Sustainable Development Goals? So we'll dive into the IRP program overview, section 3, at this time. So what is the Investment Readiness Program? It's a program designed to help social enterprises across Canada grow and flourish and get ready to access investment. This will help social enterprises to continue unlocking solutions to pressing social, cultural, and environmental challenges. Once again, eligible organizations could receive funding and non-repayable capital to launch, design, measure, and scale their social enterprise. So this is a screenshot here of the resources available on the Community Foundation's website. And what we're going to do is we're going to dive into a handful of these resources so that you have a sense of what is included in them and you can then access them further. So the IRP program has created a one-page document. It's in both English and French, and today we're going to review the 4 sections in this document. So about the IRP. The IRP is designed to help social enterprises explore, grow, flourish across the country as they unlock solutions to pressing social, cultural, and environmental challenges. Organizations can apply for funds to help launch, design, measure, scale their social enterprise to get ready to access investment in Canada's growing social finance sector. So reiterating this once again, there's a lot of words in there, but the key terms within this slide need to resonate with you as an organization if you are going to apply to this program. Who can apply? Organizations that can apply include charities, not-for-profits, co-ops, for-profits who have an idea or an existing project that fits the definition of a social enterprise. So what is a social enterprise? It's an organization or program that is mission-driven, aiming to sell goods or services to earn revenue while also helping achieve positive social, cultural, and environmental results. What the IRP funds. The IRP funds can be used to research, launch, design, measure, and scale up social enterprises to achieve an organization's sustainability plan to take on investment in the future. Funds are intended to be used to access outside expert advice or services, to explore a new business idea or develop a business plan to test an inspiring idea, create a marketing plan to reach new audiences, prepare the documentation needed to approach potential investors, plan new products or services to grow revenue. The funds are not eligible for use towards core operating costs. They should move social enterprises forward along the spectrum to investment readiness. Where to apply and find more information. So Community Foundations of Canada, alongside the Foundation for Black Communities and our network of community foundations, is allocating non-repayable funds to organizations preparing to successfully participate in the social finance market. This is all included on the one-pager document, so you can reference this at any point. There's also a link on that document to the website portal to apply. Another document that I want to resource on the site, I want to point folks on this call to is the glossary. So we will once again share the link to this in the chat, and we can look at some of the key definitions. So you can see here, the CFC has provided a definition for charity, co-op, due diligence. I'll allow you to read those on your own time. In the investment readiness continuum, there are many stages along the path to becoming investment ready. The continuum begins with getting started, underway, establishing, and ready to receive investment. We have a chart of this continuum that we will point to in a couple of slides, and it's also a part of this document, so you can look at it further. You can see here also they've provided a definition for not-for-profit. We already read these definitions for social enterprise and social enterprise business in the earlier section. They're also here in this document. Social finance is an investment that has a positive social, cultural, or environmental impact that also generates some return for investors. Social finance could potentially provide a new source of income for charities who typically rely on more traditional sources of income, such as grants and donations. Types of investment can include loans, equity investments, community bonds, social impact bonds, community-driven outcomes contracts. So these are all key investment types that I'd encourage you all to explore further. There's also a definition for social innovation as well as social purpose organizations, SPOs, which we often refer to in this presentation and throughout different documents. Here is the investment readiness continuum slide. So you can see there's a lot of helpful information here for organizations. Across the top, you'll see the stages. So the stage 1, getting started, stage 2, underway, stage 3, establishing, stage 4, ready. Down below in green, there's information on social finance awareness, business model, plan development, organizational ability, impact measurement and reporting, network development. So we encourage all organizations to dive into this chart and explore where you might fall on the continuum. The third really important document for all organizations interested in applying to this program are the program guidelines. You'll see it's a 14-page document that dives into all of the information you're going to need to apply. The sections of the program guideline include an overview about the IRP, CFC's IRP application deadlines, who can apply, how to apply, funding amounts, investment readiness continuum, general eligibility, eligible services and activities, evaluation criteria, reporting, and project completion details. As we mentioned at the start of this session, the portal is now open, and it'll be open until November 22nd at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. To apply for this funding program, you can click on the link here, and we'll also share this in the chat so that you have access to it. Some of the additional dates that Estella shared at the start of this session, I'll repeat now. February 13th, 2023, funding recipients will be notified. February 14th, 2023, funding agreements will be signed and payments issued. March 30th, 2023, regional partners will provide CFC with interim reports regarding funds received and how they have been spent. April to November of 2023, the IRP learning cohort will be running, and I'll share a bit more on that in a couple of slides. December 15th, 2023 is the deadline for projects to be completed. And then January 31st of 2024 will be the funding recipient's final report will be due at that point. So those are the key dates for this round of the IRP. So once again, funding. You can apply for between 10 and 75,000 in non-repayable funds to develop, design, measure, and scale a social enterprise. So you can see here in the lighter section of the slide, you will need to determine which funding stream is best suited for your organization, and you'll have two options. The Explore stream is for between 10,000 and 25,000, and the Stabilize and Build stream is for between 30,000 and 75,000. In the program guideline document, there's a bunch of information that outlines all the details you need to know about these two streams. It'll help you as an organization decide which is the most suitable for your social enterprise or social enterprise initiative. The IRP learning cohort is a new opportunity. So in addition to funding, successful applicants will be offered the opportunity to participate in an expert-led IRP learning cohort to further develop their knowledge and skills. The learning cohort program will primarily support mid-stage social purpose organizations. And the aim is to diversify your knowledge base, expand your tool sets, and deepen your skills, capabilities, and capacity to acquire and steward investment. If your organization is underway or establishing in the investment readiness continuum, this opportunity is well suited for you. In the application, you'll have the opportunity to opt into the learning cohort or not. And some of the potential areas that will be available to organizations to identify as areas of interest include budgeting, accounting, exploring the business model canvas, looking at your business sustainability, engaging potential investors, governance, impact measurement, legal structures, marketing, revenue diversification, and more. Eligibility. So applicants must be a registered charity or other qualified donees, including registered Indigenous governments, incorporated nonprofit organizations, nonprofit cooperatives, market sector cooperatives, private social enterprise businesses advancing a social, cultural, or environmental mission, for-profit social enterprises. You must have a charity or business registration number, and you cannot be a sole proprietor. Funds can be used from the IRP to research, launch, design, measure, and scale up your social enterprise to help you prepare for investment in the future. So once again, funds are intended to be used to access and support expert advice and services, to explore a new business idea or develop a business plan, to test your idea, create a marketing plan to reach new audiences, plan new products or services and grow your revenue, prepare documentation to engage potential investors. The funds are not eligible for core operating costs. They should move your enterprise forward along the spectrum from idea to investment ready. More eligible uses for the IRP funding. So here are some examples on this slide of some of the expert services that you may engage in this program to advance your work or your social enterprise. So I won't read through them all, but they're all here for you to reference at a later date and can also be found in the guideline document. Evaluation criteria. Social purpose organizations should be able to demonstrate their impact. Social purpose organizations must have or plan to operate and generate revenue through the sales of goods or services. The proposed projects must move the organization forward towards investment readiness. Organizations must demonstrate detailed budgets for the project, and there's actually a budget template on the site. So you'll complete the budget template when applying to this funding program. CFC encourages applications from rural areas, Indigenous-led and focused organizations, linguistic minorities, newcomers to Canada, and other minority communities. So what is the big picture of the IRP? Social enterprises apply for non-repayable IRP capital. They are successful and they receive this non-repayable capital. Capital can be used to access business services and supports, as we mentioned. Social enterprises report on the use of capital and the impact created. Social enterprises develop a plan to accept the investment. Social enterprises move into the social finance market. So we have reiterated throughout this presentation that this is the Investment Readiness Program. So social enterprise organizations are moving towards investment readiness. What are your next steps? Your next steps are to visit the website for more information, to look into the resources that we've outlined today, before applying, you need to gather key documents, financial statements, proof of corporate filing, corporate bylaws, lists of bios of your team, your board, and prepare your project budget. So with all of that, I am going to pass it over to the regional partners to provide any further comments or reflections from this section, and then move into the Q&A. We have one last slide with reminders, key questions to consider, but I'll pass it over to you all now.
Thank you, Elly. That's great. And I think that there's some real key points here that I think are going to generate a lot of questions, particularly about the streaming and which stream might be appropriate to a particular applicant. And I'll reinforce what you've said about the importance of that continuum chart, which is a really helpful tool to read through the different stages of the spectrum and find out where you are on that spectrum to understand whether the building stream, the explore stream is right for you, or whether you are at the stage for stabilizing and building, which is a little bit more mature and ready to start to talk in your community about future investment, and perhaps to access funding through the federal government social finance fund too, which is going to be a big resource over the next decade. So it's these documents that we've shared today, I think, are really key to opening up understanding amongst people who might be applying about where they sit on the continuum, and which stream they should be best aiming for in their approach. Isela, do you have anything to add at this point?
Not at this moment, but if something does come up, I'll just like raise my hand.
Awesome. So I think we're going to thank you, Elly. That was brilliant, and this is going to be such a great resource to share on our websites for people that are in the room today, but also for many people who we're almost a month away from the deadline. So I think true Canadian style, people might be hanging back and they're going to dip into this at a little bit closer to the deadline date. So as we build up towards our next session on November 16th, I think having this up on our websites is going to be a great tool for people to get, some acquaintanceship with the terminology and what the IRP is all about. So you've done a great job, Elly. That we really appreciate that presentation. And I'm going to call upon Christine and Jen just to see if we have any questions that we can address from the chat box.
I believe, Jen, you have a question. One second.
And we'll encourage, if anything's occurring to you, or if there's something you would like a little bit more clarity on, please put a question in the chat box, and we're happy to address those. I also understand it's an awful lot of complex information, and it may be the point of digesting all this and kind of reaching out to these resources at this point. We are going to have a bit more time for Q&A in session number 2, when I think if you're with us for both events, you're going to be much better primed to kind of get into the reads on some of the intricacies of applying.
A question that came up was about the repayment of the grant, but I believe you have addressed that in the slides, that this does not need to be repaid.
That's correct. It's a non-repayable investment.
Yes.
A question that came in advance was, will I receive the full amount of my ask, or is it possible that I'll receive partial funding?
That is a good question. I think that in our prep documents, and Isela, you can agree or clarify, but the gesture is to fund people the amount that they request within the parameters of the streams. So the adjudication team will be very carefully looking at your budget to see that what you're asking for is adequate, and your organization has the the structure and governance structure in place to deliver. But our effort will be to give people what they ask for in terms of the application. Saying that, there may be judgment of a lesser amount than what you're requiring. I see you're nodding, Isela. I think I'm right on that. They will have some maneuverability at the adjudication stage. It also depends on the number of applications we're receiving and how much we can utilize the amount that we're dispensing. Any other questions from the crew, Jen?
A question that I've received conversationally is asking about can we hire new staff to help support us in this venture? Contractors versus staff, what's the difference there?
Well, the IRP does not support core operating costs. So hiring a new staff member is that would be considered an operational cost. If you were bringing in a contractor to open up capacity towards future investment, maybe that contractor is someone that is going to be retained in the future, and you describe it in terms of your pathway to future investment, there are ways to build that argument into an application. I hope that's clear. Isela, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think you were clear on that, Stuart. I'm just trying to brainstorm to see if I could think of any questions people may be thinking.
In the guidelines, there are some wonderful examples on page 11, and there's one that kind of pertains to this issue. The ineligible ask would be, you wish to use IRP funding to hire a new permanent staff member. Because of that's operational, that's not eligible. The eligible ask would be, the IRP funding is used to hire a contractor who will help you with the project and fill in gaps to help you prepare for investment. Through the IRP, you could temporarily recruit a contractor to backfill your team members' functions, freeing them up to conduct the work associated with your proposed IRP project. So it's about the framing of the resources that you're going to require, but the IRP supports the capacity that you need towards that pathway to future investment. And Elly, feel free to jump in if there's any clarity you can add.
Another question that we have been asked is regarding the CRA charitable number or the CRA business registration number. They ask if the number has to be at least a year old. And I know that in the guidelines, it mentions that the registration number needs to be active prior to September of 2021.
That's correct. So it's a full calendar year in effect. And it has to, you can either have a charitable number or a business registration number. I think you said that, Christine. Yes. I see a hand up too.
Yes, we have a hand.
Thank you. In one of the slides, it shows that you cannot be a sole proprietor. You have to have a business number. But what do you mean by that? Because say I am a sole proprietor, but I have a registered business number. But I have a business that is I consider as a social enterprise because it's a business that work towards a good cause towards the community. So then, but I am a sole proprietor, right? So by definition, or when you say sole proprietor, you mean people. So if I'm not a sole proprietor, I would need to have you need to have more than one owner of the business in order to apply.
It depends on your incorporation status. If you are registered as a sole proprietorship, unfortunately, you're not eligible because that would be like us funding an individual. There are instances where sole proprietors could apply, but they would have to have a partnership with an established charity or another business or another entity to make an application. There'd have to be a standing relationship.
And then the nonprofit has to have a registered charity number, right?
No,
Or if it is a nonprofit but it doesn't have a charity status,
that's
they
correct.
can still
Yes.
apply. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you, May.
One other piece of information I'll just touch on is we talked about the quiz. So at the start of the application for the IRP, there is an eligibility quiz. So this is something my understanding is that's been put in place to ensure no applicant spends their time applying for this if they are not eligible. So that is a step that's been put in place to ensure you are eligible. So take note of that when you're completing the application.
And I should also say that our community foundation network across Southwestern Ontario is ready to help you. And depending on your community that you're calling from, perhaps you know of your local CF, and we have a number of them across our region in Southwestern Ontario that are poised to help amplify the program and to answer your questions on particularities like we've heard today. So please give us a call, reach out to your community foundation, and we're here to help and here to coach you and help to reach those applicants that should be subscribing to the program.
And I've shared the contact information for both of our foundations on who to contact if you have more questions or want to see if you are eligible.
That's great stuff. So any other questions popping up? I'll look for a thumbs up from my team.
I
And
think we have addressed all the questions.
that's great. Well, I think we'll wrap then for today. And while I want to thank our team here today, Christine McGregor, Community Outreach Officer, Jennifer Isbert-Legg, our grants coordinators behind the scenes helping out too. And Isela, it's been so great to have you with us, and all our friends at Windsor-Essex. We're so thrilled to be collaborating on this initiative, and it's been excellent to have your insights to share today. And Elly, I can't thank you enough. Your deep understanding of this sector and your experience with the previous IRP and your work at Senco, it's so wonderfully shared and eloquent and clear, and we really appreciate this. I know the recording is going to be a great resource to our communities as we move ahead.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the afternoon, and please join us again on November 16th at 4 o'clock for part 2. And we're going to be taking a look at some examples from IRP, the last round, and talking a little bit more about how to write a successful application to the Investment Readiness Program. So please join us again. And also, if you know of agencies or organizations that after all this definition that we've described that might be in need or might need a tug on their sleeve to get them to apply, please reach out and spread the word. There's a lot of shareables on our Facebook, Instagram, and our websites too. So it can be as easy as clicking through and sharing some information with a colleague or friend. But thank you so much. And someone asked about the recording. We will download it today, and it should be up by, what do you think, Christine, by
the end of next week.
By the end,
I will be able to share the link
as quickly as possible. Yeah. So thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.